for this program, especially on technology and transparency, and it's worth seeing where those go.
For the Now, I'm Corey Rangel.
All right, let's take a live look outside, see what we see for your most accurate forecast. A few clouds out there, but it doesn't really seem like those big storms that we've been getting used to all summer.
We've really dried out here the last couple of days. I know a lot of people are welcoming it, especially those early morning lows dipping down into the 70s. And then when you walk outside, it doesn't feel like a sauna out there with these dew points really dropping off here over the last couple of days. So yeah, it's been a few days since we've seen those storms building up over the higher elevations. Now it looks like it's going to be a few more before we start to get them back. And it's 103 at the airport right now. We've topped out at 105 degrees today. Dew point down into the 30s, and this is really as low as I've seen them since about late June. And really just statewide, we've dried out here now in the 20s and 30s with most of those dew points. So if you're up early enough, the running, the hiking, the biking, certainly looking okay there. Still want to be off the trails by about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning there because we're still heating up pretty quickly through the afternoon hours. There's those clouds that we're tracking, just those mid and high level clouds for us today. But if you look off to the west around sunset tonight, around 7 p.m., might be a pretty nice looking one. If you get any photos of that, share at abc15.com. I'll get them on the air a little later on tonight and show some of those off. But as we head on into about 8 o'clock, we'll eventually drop down out of those triple digits down into the low 90s by about 10 p.m. this evening. And then again, early tomorrow morning, we're in the mid to upper 70s for most valley locations. Still going to be topping out above 105 as we head into your Wednesday afternoon. And it looks like those temperatures are going up even further from there. We'll talk about that in your 4-day forecast coming up here in just a bit.
All right, listen to this in the Now newsfeed as Pennsylvania's Attorney General saying today the Vatican knew about a cover-up of sex abuse allegations against priests. Josh Shapiro saying he has evidence against the Vatican but cannot specifically speak for Pope Francis. Well, here's an example why, frankly, you just don't Google yourself, because it seems like no one's really ever happy with what comes up in that search. And now you can add the president to that list because he tweet attacked Google this morning. He says when you Google Trump news, only negative coverage comes up, and he's claiming that Google is rigged against him. Yeah, Google says, though, it doesn't bias its results towards an agenda. Well, rest in peace to an iconic TV character, because Roseanne Barr's character will be killed off in the new Roseanne spinoff. Now, that will come out this fall. The new show going to be called The Conners. Roseanne, you remember getting the show canceled after tweeting a racist attack on a former Obama staffer this year. Well, take a look at this video. It is getting a lot of attention today. A mystery woman captured on surveillance camera outside a Texas home. Then she vanishes. Now, what makes this disturbing is the woman appears to have broken restraints on both of her wrists, and she also appears to be only partially dressed. Really scary video. This happened in the middle of the night, and the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office says they've been looking at missing persons flyers, and as of right now, they don't think any of them match the woman in that video. Well, a nurse is under investigation for posting about a child's measles on an anti-vaccination Facebook page. Now, the issue here is you cannot share info about a patient. It said, in part, quote, "For the first time in my career, I saw measles this week. The kid was super sick enough to be admitted to the ICU, and he looked miserable. By no means have I changed my vax stance, and I never will." Now, she doesn't support vaccines herself. Texas health leaders who are investigating the measles case says it is rare because we have effective vaccines against the disease.
Measles is such a concern because, one, it's preventable, right? We have vaccination that can prevent it. But number two is that because it is so easily infectious or transmittable to someone else.
Now, the U.S. is dealing with a big uptick of measles cases right now. CDC says there's been more than 100 cases in 21 states and D.C. this year. Right now, the FDA investigating how vaping products are marketed, and that includes the Juul e-cigarettes, which are really popular with teens right now. The agency is also getting ready to launch a campaign to discourage teens from using e-cigarettes. It tells CBS News that campaign will use ads to try and convince them. Now, Juul says it has changed its marketing, and it didn't mean to attract teens. It also says it's trying to restrict kids' access to the e-cigarettes. All right, next in our lineup, we're checking out a new way to save money. It's an app with some big rewards. Now, is it really a good way to save some cash? We'll break that down next. You're watching The Now. Welcome back. And putting money into our savings account may kind of just be another boring thing on our to-do list. But would you more likely do it if you had a chance of winning money? The Now's Annie Taylor showing us how you can do just that.
An app called Grand is motivating people to save by entering them into a sweepstakes. So how does it all work? Well, you'll need to link up your bank account to the app, and then you choose how much money you want to set aside each week. But each dollar gives you an entry into the sweepstakes. And if you get extra entries, if you refer friends or reach certain milestones like paying off debt. And the prize money varies. You could win a $2 prize, or you could win up to $1,000. And if you wait until October, you could actually win $25,000. But even if you don't win, you're still making some money off your savings. Grand guarantees users a 1% return on their savings, but you will need to pay $2 a month to keep your account. So if you do all the math, that means that you'll need to keep $1,100 in your account to make it count. And if you're feeling a little weird about linking up your bank account to the app, just know Grand is FDIC insured.
All right, Annie, thank you. And we are hearing some good news today about retirement. USA Today saying there are early indications our Social Security benefits could go up. Now, this would be the biggest increase we've seen since 2012. The Social Security Administration is calculating benefits by looking at the Consumer Price Index. Now, that's an index of what we pay in retail goods and other items. Now, even if we were to stay flat for the rest of the year, Social Security benefits could go up by 2.7% come January. All right, we do have a lot more to get to in our lineup, and here's a question for you. When you're at the grocery store, if it looks like meat, kind of tastes like it, but isn't actually meat, then can you actually call it meat? We're going to get into a debate and a new law when the Now continues. Well, just 2 days later, attorneys have announced the first lawsuit stemming from the Jacksonville shooting. Now, they haven't identified their clients, but they do say one of the survivors was shot twice while they were at the Madden tournament. Lawyers say the deadly shooting could have been prevented if they had better security at that venue.
Business as usual on the security front will no longer be tolerated by Americans. We are going to demand more. We must demand more from business owners. We must. It is time for business owners to step up their game.
Now, lawyers also added there had been a shooting at the Landing there in Jacksonville back in 2017. And there have been several mass shootings this year, and people still trying to figure out ways to prevent them from happening. Now, legally, mass shootings are considered as 3 or more killings in a single incident in a place of public use. The Now's investigator Jace Larson looking into what, if any, laws are changing.
As soon as I heard third shot, I went around, seen a guy that was laid on his stomach, turned him over, fell for his post. There was no post.
2 dead.
Took off my shirt, pulled up his shirt, applied pressure to the wound. I felt it again, he had a pulse.
9 injured. Over the weekend, a shooting took place at the video game tournament in Florida. It's not the first mass shooting in Florida. We all remember back in February at Parkland when 17 were killed.
There was a tsunami of people running towards us saying, go the other way, go the other way.
Well, since Parkland, David Hogg has been a vocal gun control advocate, from the cover of Time magazine to the face of marches and voter registration rallies.
At the end of the day, if you take a bullet from an AR-15 to the head, no amount of CPR is going to save you because you're dead.
But change has been hard to come by, and the movement slowed down between killings. So far this year, there have been 8 notable mass shootings. There's the Capital Gazette shooting in Maryland in June, then the Waffle House shooting in Tennessee. 3 people were killed at a veterans home in Yountville, California. There was a deadly bar shooting in North Carolina, and people who were killed at a car wash in Pennsylvania. The school shooting in Santa Fe, Texas, just outside of Houston, left 10 dead and 13 hurt.
They heard 3 shots, and then I heard 4 more shots.
All the teachers are telling us to run, run, go.
We can confirm multiple fatalities.
The federal government has not passed any major gun legislation in more than a dozen years. The last thing was a law that blocked victims from suing gun makers. Action has been mostly taken on the state and local level. On Monday, California lawmakers approved a trio of bills to reduce the number of people with firearm access. They included lifetime bans for people convicted of domestic violence or individuals placed on involuntary psychiatric holds twice in 1 year. Florida toughened gun controls by raising the age to purchase a firearm to 21, and it banned bump stocks. Connecticut's governor also signed a bill banning bump stocks. In Deerfield, Illinois, they banned assault weapons within city limits. New Jersey is requiring therapists and counselors to alert law enforcement if a patient has threatened serious violence against themselves or others, and that patient's right to buy a gun can then be revoked. Now, the battle continues to wage on how to handle these types of shootings. But so far, there appears to be no federal push to make major changes, which means the efforts are left up to states and cities. I'm Jace Larson, The Now.
Live from ABC 15 Arizona, The Now at 4 starts with breaking news.
I'm Faye Fredericks. As you are walking in the door this afternoon, let's get you caught up on the top stories we are tracking this half hour. Primary day in Arizona plagued by voting problems. We were hearing calls for polling places to extend their hours tonight due to these issues, but we were just told that will not happen. Voting ends as planned at 7 p.m. This comes after Maricopa County officials say 62 polling locations were not ready for voters at 6 this morning. County says a contractor was supposed to deploy technicians to help set up all the voting technology, but came up short. More than 24 workers didn't show up to the job yesterday. Then this morning there were technical issues. Some machines weren't even set up. All locations were functional by 11:30 today, but mind you, that's more than 5 hours after voting started. Final preparations are underway to transform the state capitol rotunda, where Senator John McCain will lie in state tomorrow. A private ceremony will take place there at 10 a.m. Then starting at 2 p.m., the public is invited to pay the senator their final respects. As many as 10,000 Arizonans are expected to show up. The event is scheduled to run until 8 p.m., but we're being told the doors will stay open as long as there is a line. Glendale police are searching for 3 suspects wanted for a scary home invasion robbery. It happened this morning near 59th Avenue in Cactus. That's when the trio broke into a home, robbed it, and shot a man inside. All 3 ran off before police arrived. We're told the victim is expected to be okay. Well, we've been talking about it all day. It is primary day here in Arizona, and Democrats in the state have a tough choice to make: who to nominate and who could potentially become our next governor. David Garcia, who started as an education candidate endorsed by the Arizona Education Association at the height of the Red for Ed movement, has seen his lead in the polls shrink recently. Garcia's controversial call to abolish ICE polarizing some voters and pushing them closer to State Senator Steve Farley. We talked to Farley this morning about what he thinks voters are looking for today.
They're done with ideological warriors. They're done with reality show stars. They just want people who are grown-ups in the room solving problems. And I think this turnout we're seeing, this surge of people interested in politics and actually wanting to create a better place for Arizona, it's amazing. More than 1 million people voting today.
Kelly Fryer, a nonprofit CEO from Southern Arizona, trailing in the polls, but is waiting for the votes to all be counted. We know Governor Ducey voted today, but other than that, he is not taking part in any campaign events. Yesterday, his communications director said that out of respect for Senator McCain, the governor has canceled all campaign events until Senator McCain is laid to rest. If you are voting in person today, you're being asked to cast your ballot at your specific precinct location and to bring your ID with you. You can vote as long as you're in line by 7 o'clock tonight. However, in Maricopa County, there will also be 40 bonus vote centers open to help alleviate any lines that may form at the precincts. If you're still holding on to an early ballot, you can drop that off at any polling location. Members of both parties supporting an idea to honor Senator John McCain, but they're not sure how to do it just yet. Today, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he is forming a panel to solicit ideas. There's a proposal out there to rename the Senate's oldest office building in his honor. Lawmakers may also name a committee room after McCain. As the country and parts of the world continue to mourn the loss of John McCain, the place he called home is now in the national spotlight. The town of Cornville is nestled between Prescott Valley and Sedona, and that's where ABC 15's Jamie Warren is talking with the locals who are sharing great moments they spent with the senator.
This is the spot here in Cornville where a lot of memories were made between John McCain and the locals. Up the creek, Bistro Wine Bar. Between the food, the bar, and the music, in the corner next to the piano is where the owners say McCain often sat. This is where Meghan McCain even had her rehearsal dinner for her wedding last year. Photos from that night show McCain in a ball cap, smiling with his family. Co-owner of the restaurant, Mario Aguilar Ayello, says McCain never had security with him, and he was always willing to have a conversation with anyone. He recalled a time McCain showed that lighter side and willingness to joke around.
We're making bets about who knows what wine we're drinking, and the money starts to pile because nobody could figure out this jackpot's growing. And John McCain comes walking up from behind everybody, goes, and everybody just opens up and he goes, "Oh, my campaign contribution." And he puts his hands all over the money and everybody jumps up on the bar. It's like, no, no, no.
And McCain kept that positivity and energy till the very end. We'll tell you about the last time he ever visited this restaurant and what a powerful moment it was. That's on ABC 15 at 6. In Cornville, Jamie Warren, ABC 15, Arizona.
I'm meteorologist John Patrick in for Amber Solons with your most accurate forecast. Once again, continuing this dry, hot stretch of weather right on into your Tuesday. If you're keeping score at home, today was our 99th triple-digit day of the year. Our average last 100 here in the Valley hits around October 3rd, so we still have a ways to go. It's 103 right there at Phoenix Sky Harbor right now, and eventually we'll see these numbers drop down into the 90s after sunset around 6, 7 o'clock, and then eventually dropping down into the low 90s about 10, 11 o'clock before we start to see those 80s in play for your overnight hours. There's those high clouds that we've been tracking moving in off to our west. You see no rain here on the desert Doppler, and that's going to be the case, it looks like, for the next several days. And as we head into tomorrow, starting things off in the upper 70s and low 80s for us, those temperatures are going to come up another degree or so as we head into your Wednesday afternoon, topping 106. Looks like we're up even further from there as we head into the start of your long holiday weekend. We'll show you what that looks like. Your 4-day forecast is coming up.
All right, thanks, John. An investigation is underway into a deadly hit and run as police search for 2 drivers who they say hit a man and both took off. Happened early this morning near 21st Avenue in Bethany. Home officers say the victim was crossing the street mid-block when he was hit by a red truck and then a white car. A bicyclist expected to be okay after he was viciously attacked by 2 pit bulls. This happened near 35th Avenue and Bethany Home Road this morning. Police say the dogs actually pulled the victim off his bike. When officers arrived, they found other first responders trying to spray the dogs with pepper spray, and it wasn't working. That's when they say one dog charged an officer who shot it in the shoulder area. The other dog ran off. The victim, who has injuries to his hands and his arms, is expected to be okay. Both dogs are now in quarantine with Maricopa County Animal Care and Control. So far, the owner has not been found. All right, let's head over to Chris now with more on a special tribute to Senator McCain today. Chris?
We start the news feed here with sailors of the USS John McCain honoring the late senator today. This boat's currently in Japan. Its flag lowered to half-mast. This boat named in honor of 3 generations of McCains who served. Well, today at the University of North Carolina, meeting about what to do since protesters took down a Confederate statue on campus. The statue is currently in temporary storage. Leaders are looking into a criminal investigation and possible legal action. Well, if you find yourself spending countless hours on YouTube, you may have a problem and need some help. Google putting out a feature to let you know how many hours you spend on the site. Now, Google does own YouTube, and how about this? YouTube, the second most visited website in the world, behind Google. Well, taking a stand against fake meat. That's what the state of Missouri is doing today. And the Now's Andy Taylor taking a look at a new law that has created a battle over beef.
Well, Chris, Missouri is the first state in the country to make it illegal for food makers to use the word meat if their product isn't actually meat. The new law takes aim at lab-grown meat products. We've told you about them before, but they're made from cultured animal tissue cells. And Missouri lawmakers created the law so that shoppers won't get confused at the grocery store. But the company that makes Tofurky, products made out of tofu, says that it hasn't heard any complaints. In fact, Tofurky is now suing the state. They say, first of all, no one is buying their products thinking they're getting meat from an actual animal. And second, the state is violating their right to free speech. And if we're really going to get into semantics, Chris, Tofurky says meat can refer to the edible part of either a nut or fruit.
I'm just confused.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's the meat of the nut or fruit?
Yeah, I don't know. You used to just be able to go to the grocery store. Now you have to think about what things are labeled.
We'll leave it at that,
We'll leave it at that. All right, Annie, thanks. Yeah, getting back to our lineup, we're talking about wills today, and a lot of people don't have them. Even the Queen of Soul, who passed away without a will. So who really needs one? You're watching The Now. As fans line up in Detroit at the Museum of African American History to pay their respects to the Queen of Soul before her funeral on Friday, she definitely had a lot of accomplishments in her life. But we do want to spend a little time talking about something that Aretha Franklin didn't do. She didn't leave a will. Now, you might find this surprising, but it happens often. Prince, he didn't leave a will either. And it got us thinking, just how important is it to have one? The Now's Andy Taylor speaking with a financial planner to answer that question.
It's not just celebrities, it's not just people of affluence that ultimately need to have preparation.
No matter your age or financial status, Jonathan DeWong, a certified financial planner, says everyone should have a will.
So even if you don't have kids, as long as your situation includes some level of basic complexity where you own different types of assets, then absolutely a will is going to be a proper document at a minimum to have in place.
For those who only have assets like a 401k or a life insurance policy that have a designated beneficiary built in, a will might not be necessary.
But for many other things, there is no legal way to control where that asset goes without a will.
Getting a will oftentimes entails hiring an attorney and can cost nearly $1,000. But Jonathan says you do not need to spend that much to have a proper will.
Typically, their employer, if they're employed with a larger company or a public organization, may offer a legal plan within their employee benefits.
There are also great online resources to create one for less than $100, like simplywill.com or doyourownwill.com. For the now, I'm Annie Taylor.
All right, Annie, thank you. Well, how about this one here to start us off in the Now News feed? Pollution, not just bad for your lungs, it is apparently making people dumber. Researchers did math and verbal tests on thousands of people in China, and the study, it's currently in the National Academy of Sciences, says that people in polluted areas had a decline in results over several years. A judge going to decide the lives of 22 grizzly bears in Wyoming. It's whether or not hunters can kill them next month. Hunters say the population has grown enough for the White House to remove the bears' protections. USA Today says this would be the first grizzly hunt in the lower 48 since the 70s. You do often hear just how awesome the economy is doing, but there's a new study by the Urban Institute saying 2 in 5 Americans are struggling to pay for their basic needs like groceries. Now, researchers, they were even surprised that this included some middle-class families. Well, if you're saving up for a home or looking to move, it could pay to wait. First off, home prices are still going up. It's about 6% more expensive to buy a home now than last year. Mortgage rates are also higher, but Zillow just talked to a real estate economist, and a majority think by 2020, things will shift in favor of buyers. That's because they're starting to see home appreciation slow down and more price cuts.
All right, it's that time of year when the hopeful line up to show their stuff with the dreams of making it to the big time. American Idol auditions kicking off at Scottsdale Stadium today. More than 600 Valley singers braving the long lines to show the judges they are the star that those judges have been looking for. 16-year-old Letty Ramos immigrated from Brazil to Mexico as a child and then eventually to the United States. Each time it was music that helped her learn the local language and make friends.
Music was always with me, and I want to show people what music can be to you. Even if you're alone, you're not.
All right, well, she is moving on to the next round, so congratulations to her. Those who do well have a recording of today's auditions. They're played for the executive producers, and the lucky few chosen by them will get their chance to go on to Hollywood. Your old bike could be a holiday miracle for a child in foster care. ABC 15 is teaming up with Earnhardt Auto Centers to recycle your bicycle. You can help in 3 ways. You can drop off your old bikes at any of 20 Earnhardt locations. You can donate money or volunteer to help fix up the bikes. You can find more details at abc15.com/bike. That is always a fun campaign.
What a great program.
The look on the kids' faces when they get those bikes is amazing.
Sure. I've got a couple collecting dust in the garage here. I'm going to have to fix them up and get them in.
There you go. We are not quite in bike riding weather, though, I will say.
Yeah, probably not in the afternoon hours, but you know, if you're up early enough, it's been pretty nice. Fair. You know, mid to upper 70s this morning. That was kind of a nice little treat, and it wasn't quite as sticky as it's been for the last several weeks here as well. But yeah, the afternoon hours temperatures are still shooting way up there. Anywhere from about 100 to 105 degrees across the valley now. Surprise and Goodyear, a couple of the hot spots at 105. You're at about 102 there in Mesa, 99 in Fountain Hills. We woke up to temperatures in the low 40s across the high country today. Flagstaff, your morning low is 44. You're at 74 right now. Saw some 40s even across the White Mountains there. Show Low at 82 now, 80 in Heber. And we've seen those winds pick back up across the high country today as well. Anywhere from about 10 to 20 miles an hour. These will calm down after sunset. They should be much lighter for you as we head in to Wednesday. So So where'd that monsoon moisture go? Well, it was pushed well south of the international border. You see some of those storms building back up over the higher elevations of northern Mexico. But yeah, those are about 250 miles south of the valley now. So it's going to be a while before we start to see some of that monsoon moisture move back in here. So besides a few passing clouds here as we head into tonight and the next couple of days, it doesn't look like we'll start to see that storm chance make its way back into our forecast until about early next week. So Sunday, your Labor Day holiday on Monday, we're going to give it about a 10% chance of storms for us here in the valley. Looks like the better chance is going to come across southeastern Arizona as we head into early next week. So still several dry days to go for us across the valley here, and those temperatures still feeling pretty good early tomorrow morning, mid to upper 70s most spots. Daytime highs tomorrow still going to be right around 105 as we head into your Wednesday afternoon. And we're actually going to tack on a few more degrees as we head into Thursday and Friday, up to around 107, 106 for the start of your long holiday weekend. We'll talk more about those rain chances. Full 7-day forecasts coming up here at 5 o'clock.
Well, many of us guilty of doing this. You walk into Target for a roll of paper towels and you walk out with just hundreds of dollars worth of stuff you really don't need. Like, how many people actually need that many scented candles? Well, if you're one of those people, you may have opted for the Target Red debit card, but Target is now facing some trouble because of that card. A new lawsuit accuses Target of fooling people into thinking it is a debit card when it's really not. Some shoppers report because of that they're getting hit with a lot of fees when they overdraft. Well, typically you see about a $35 fee when you overdraft a debit card, but customers say they're seeing the overdraft fee and a return payment fee from Target. And it doesn't stop there, because shoppers accuse Target of trying to submit the transaction more than once. That means more overdraft fees. Well, all of those fees can really add up to anywhere from $60 to $100. Now, Target is defending itself. It says that it cleared all this up in the fine print, but judge says it's just not necessary to read the fine print when the card is labeled as a debit card. Now, this case is still ongoing, so if you have seen some of these extra fees from your card, you do still have time to join the lawsuit. A new way to hopefully get the best price on tires is expanding. Now, you may have heard a few months ago that Amazon and Sears teamed up to test letting us order tires online and have them shipped to a Sears Auto Center to have them installed. Today, Amazon announcing that program, it is now available nationwide. You pay for the installation on Amazon. It does look like 4 tires on a car will cost about $80 to install. Well, you definitely don't want to be this person, the one who sends those emails with phrases that could be misinterpreted. Don't you hate getting those? Well, Adobe just put together the list of the most annoying email phrases. Not sure if you saw my last email. That was number 1. Now, similar and also annoying, per my last email and per our conversation. Another one that irks people is, any updates on this? Also, please advise, which we advise you not use that phrase. People see those phrases as passive-aggressive and can't interpret the person's tone or intent. So as you sit at your office this week, make sure you do the right thing with those. Well, there's really nothing better that you can do for yourself than just get a good night's sleep. And it does seem like there are more and more specialty pillows out there that can claim to help you rest better. So tomorrow here in the Now, we're going to be taking a look at a few of them, and we're going to have some sleep experts weigh in on what's worth your money. But finally in our lineup, the new steps that Google is taking to help veterans find good jobs. We'll break that down next. You're watching The Now.
All right, thanks, Chris. But first, here's a look at what we're busy working on as we ramp up for our big 5 o'clock show. New tonight, if you are sick and tired of getting those annoying robocalls at your home, the Let Joe Know team has a solution, the new tool that actually blocks them. And there is even a version for your cell phone. We have all the details straight ahead at 5.
Hey, have you ever heard of the $5 challenge? It's a super easy way to save some extra money. So here's how it works. Every time you get a 5, put it at the bottom of your purse, maybe in a piggy bank or a shoebox at home, and then a year later, come back, look into your purse and see how much money you ended up saving. And get this, a blogger did this for 13 years and ended up saving $40,000.
Let's get to the Now Newsfeed. Some important stories to know today. And a Korean American has not been in Congress since 1999. That could change in a big way in November because 4 candidates could win races. They're running in New Jersey, California, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania. Comedian Louis C.K. taking the stage again. You remember that fall from grace he had last year over sexual misconduct accusations. Made a surprise appearance at a New York comedy club over the weekend. And it takes a lot of electricity to run Facebook's data centers, and the company now saying that it hopes to only use renewable energy by the end of 2020. Facebook also wants to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 75%. Well, Google is rolling out new features to help military families. There's a new tool to get vets in the right jobs. Now when you search jobs for veterans on Google, veterans can put in their military job code they get based on their service. Then they can get a list of available civilian jobs that match their skill set. Now, for the 250,000 military members that become a civilian every year, this was a big disconnect. 1 in 3 veterans end up taking jobs below their skill level. Experts say they didn't know how to translate service language into the business world.
Oftentimes we'll hear stories where someone who was leading 200 soldiers within the military is coming out and then they feel like they have to start over from ground zero. And it shouldn't be that way. It doesn't need to be that way.
Google also announced $2.5 million in grants available to vets and their spouses. It supports professional certification. Those are available through the United Service Organizations. Once they're trained, Google matches them with businesses looking to fill its positions. Now, finally, there's a new Maps feature that Google rolled out that any of us can use. Now, when you pull up a business page, it'll have a special designation for those that are veteran-owned or led. And that'll do it for us today here on The Now. I'm Chris Stewart. The News at 5 is next.
This is ABC 15 News Taking Action.
Live breaking coverage of a polling place mess playing out across Maricopa County. Arizonans are being asked to decide some critical races, but in the background, there's a full-on blame game over a pile of problems at the polls.
Final preparations underway to celebrate the life and legacy of Senator John McCain. More emotional tributes tonight as lawmakers decide what to do to honor our late senator.
Blocking those annoying robocalls, the Let Joe Know team is showing you a new app and letting you know if you qualify for it. Thanks for choosing ABC 15 on election night. I'm Stephanie Hawkridge.
And I'm Katie Rammel. But first, we've got some breaking news of the problems at the polls. Dozens of locations not ready for voters this morning, so some were even turned away.
In a rare move, there was a plea to extend voting hours, but the Board of Supervisors said no way. ABC 15's Mike Pelton is live outside the Maricopa County Recorder's office. And Mike, what are you hearing out there?
Well, Stephanie, in a scathing statement late today, the chairman for the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors saying the Recorder's Office got millions of dollars in new technology and had no shortage of resources to pull off a successful election. Today, some say it's anything but.
It's, oh my gosh, like I actually at one point was in tears.
Tavara Gray excited to vote. She says her polling place not up and running when she walked in with a smile on Tuesday morning. 3 hours later, she tells me she had to settle for a provisional ballot.
And I saw people going, forget this. You know, I don't know if they meant forget this for now or period. And that's a vote that's not going to count because of something as simple as getting done what you knew had to be done.
We've heard of similar issues from other voters. Maricopa County Recorder Adrian Fontes saying 62 locations not up and running first thing Tuesday morning.
Yeah, absolutely, I should be held accountable. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to sit back and blame anybody else. We're going to work towards a solution, and we're going to try to push hard to make sure those votes get counted.
Fontes says a contractor hired to send technicians out came up short. He says only 73 out of more than 100 technicians showed up to work on Monday. They were supposed to help with the IT work and set up check-in stations. Although Fontes admits he knew Monday it looked like he had a problem.
Why didn't no one find out until 9:30 this morning when it was way too late for some voters?
Well, I'll tell you, the reason why we didn't say your polling places aren't going to be ready is because I'm not a fan of voter suppression. And we want to make sure that voters get the correct information every time.
And excuses are the tools of the incompetent. They build monuments of nothingness, and those who choose to specialize in them are seldom good for anything else. That's what that sounds like to me.
And in that statement from the chairman for the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors about not trying to extend voting hours tonight, he says in part, quote, members of the board were not told of any concerns yesterday when the recorder first became aware of issues, nor were members notified prior to the polls opening this morning. Now the board is being asked to step in and take unprecedented action that may confuse voters, delay returns, and have other unintended consequences. The message, if you still want to vote, get in line at the polls by 7 o'clock tonight. And for what it's worth, the county recorder tells me all voting locations are up and running now. For now, we're live in Phoenix. Mike Pelton, ABC 15, Arizona.
All right, Mike, thank you. There is a lot at stake for both parties in tonight's primary.
Yeah, a couple key races are being closely watched here and really across the nation. The big one, who will replace Jeff Flake in the U.S. Senate? It's been a contentious race with Martha McSally leading the pack. Dr. Kelly Ward and former Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio each making a sort of last stand with bus tours and public events. Each candidate already spending millions of dollars on campaign ads. The winner will likely face Democrat Kyrsten Sinema, who faces a primary challenge from Deidre Aboud. Now, the bigger decision for Democrats, who to nominate to run for governor of Arizona.
David Garcia's lead in the polls shrinking in recent weeks due to a late surge from State Senator Steve Farley. Garcia's controversial stance on abolishing ICE, a polarizing issue for some voters. Kelly Fryer is also in the race, hoping to be a factor when all the votes are counted. The winner likely to face incumbent Doug Ducey, although Ducey is facing a primary challenge of his own from former Secretary of State Ken Bennett. You can stick with ABC 15 for all of your election night coverage. We're going to bring you updates all night, on air, online, and on our free ABC 15 app. And then at 10 o'clock tonight, we're going to have live team coverage with our crews covering all the big races, winners, and losers.